Welcome back, guys. So today we're working on something a little bit different. Not the usual big stuff. We got something really little and really old. So this is a Briggs and Stratton pretty well washing machine engine. It's impulse buy at an auction. It looked like somebody had restored it at one point and it might run, so I went ahead and took the gamble on it and bring you guys along and see if this thing even runs. So I did do some research. I think this is from like 51 or 52. Something like that. It looks fairly simple. It's a kickstart. Kickstart's kind of messed up. But basically how they work is it's just a one-way clutch, so well, if it wasn't, it's out of adjustment, but if it wasn't out of adjustment, see, it works just like that. And that's how you start them. And you would have like a piece of, I don't know, kind of like flex pipe. Put it on here and route it to wherever you want it to go. And it's got about the simplest carburetor I've ever seen. It's kind of frozen. I have no idea how this thing works, but we're gonna find out. It's pretty vintage. It's got the old style screw-on spark plug lead. It's got a Hastings spark plug, so you know that's vintage. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna see if it has a spark. And me being me, I'm gonna cheat, and we're gonna turn it over with the big Milwaukee impact, because it's not 1950, so I don't need to be using the hand crank or foot crank. I could, but I'm not. I'm gonna assume this thing probably needs the points cleaned out, and I need to pull this off anyway, so we'll first see if it has a spark, because if it does, we'll just skip everything and give it a shot of ether. And if not, then we'll just go through the usual stuff you go through on an old engine, the points, the ignition, everything. Now before I go hammering on this, something I noticed, and I don't know, I guess they're all like this, but it's a good thing I noticed it because there'd been trouble down the road. But these are, I call them backwards, so I don't remember if they're right hand or left hand, opposite of what we usually do. So it's, I'm trying to think, lefty tighty, righty loosey. Yeah, so it's backwards. And I happened to look at it because I was like, hey, that looks funny. And well, if you look at it, it is kind of funny looking. So that means we can't hammer on it, not that we needed to anyway. But if we hammer on it, we'll probably end up spinning it all the way off because this thing turns clockwise. So get my ancient new old stock spark plug on there. I forgot what this thing fits, but it's nothing from this century. And we'll give it a spin and see if we have anything. All right, guys, so I'm just gonna put it like that and slowly spin it. Then we're gonna put you right here, and you can see if it has a spark. No, but it's got some compression. It's blowing sand and stuff out of the exhaust. So that's not terrible, but not great news either. So we'll pull this shroud off, pull off the flywheel, and then we'll file the points, kind of clean up the magnets, and then give it another go. So here it is naked with the cover off. It's full of dirt, so I was just gonna go flying everywhere if it did start. And it looks pretty well like a modern one. You got your coil. You have your points down here, which the modern ones don't have anymore. We have this that's frozen, so that tells me the carbs got issues. So before we go further, we'll use this. We'll just flood it out with some oil. Maybe it'll loosen it up. Oh yeah, there we go. I don't know how this thing works, but it seems super simple. Man, look at that. Only the modern stuff was this easy. So next we're gonna bust this off. And for the non-believers, yeah, it's backwards. See? I should probably leave it on because I'm gonna have to hit that with the hammer. Stand by, I'll grab the hammer. Let's see if this works. Worked perfect. And right underneath should be your points and everything. Oh, and our key. Guess it's not in there. It's right there, okay. So you got your condenser, got our points over here. So I'm just gonna file them down. I actually have a file right here. I don't know if you guys have seen me do this in other videos, but this may take 2 hands. There it goes, like that. I just use a nail file. And just kind of get all the stuff off them. I think they have a beveled edge or something. That's how they're supposed to work. I honestly don't know, because I haven't messed with enough of them. But doing it like this seems to work, so we're just gonna continue doing it this way. But yeah, all you do is just clean them off. And then we'll clean the magnets off. And I'll do that off camera. It's hard to do by hand or one-handed. And we'll put it back together. Hopefully we'll have a spark. In the split second since you last saw me, I got it all cleaned up. The magnets, I guess they're strong enough to make a spark. Seems to stick all right. We got the points cleaned up and gapped. Got the coil cleaned up. So if it doesn't start, it probably means we've got a bad condenser, but I think I have one on the shelf. Or this is bad and I don't have one on the shelf, but I don't know. We'll slap this thing together and see what we have. And anyone working on these small engines, always make sure your little key's in there. Because if not, you're going to be fighting this thing for days and you'll never get it running, or you never get it running right. This is real hard to get used to. So we just need enough torque to make it tight enough where it doesn't spin loose when we go the other direction. Like that. Now let's see if we have sparkage. We do now. I don't know what that other noise is. So I'll clean the shroud out, and then next up we need to add oil to it. I'd always kind of assumed these were rebuilt and maybe not run or hardly run, and this confirms that there's no play in that shaft. And if this thing doesn't smoke or anything, I would be willing to bet someone rebuilt it, or maybe it's like a new old stock someone made. But we'll see here in a second, because most of these were well worn out. Pretty well any engine from this vintage that you see used is 3 times worn out, unless it's been restored. And judging by this and everything, I think someone actually took the time to restore it correctly and not just do a Krylon restoration. But I guess time will tell when we start it, and we'll see what it does. If we're taking bets, I'm going to bet that there's no oil in this. But I could be wrong. It's different. gonna go with there's no oil in it. So I'll get the little funnel out. We'll add some kind of oil to it, whatever I have laying around, and go from there. I guess that's full. It's not empty, so it's better than having nothing in it. Went ahead and brought it to the 21st century, and we added some AMSOIL to it. Currently experimenting with this. We got it in a car, and we're going on round 2 of 25,000 mile changes, just like it says. 20 or 25,000. 25. So I think it'll be just fine. I'm not worried about it. People take the oil stuff a little too serious sometimes. But the guy that sold me that, he actually was pretty cool. First guy I've encountered in person that's actually knowledgeable about oil, and like legit knowledge, not just tells me he likes valvoline because the jug is blue or whatever. Guy actually knew his shit. Very impressed. So tighten that down. I'm gonna get out my favorite thing. First we gotta fix this deal, because we're not starting anything if the plug's not connected. I bet it'll run. Just amazed at how the simplicity of this, but yet it runs. Be enough. It doesn't have enough compression to hurt it. Okay. I can tell you right now, from experience, we got a stuck valve. Okay, I got the flashlight from the other phone. So if you look at our intake valve right here, you can see, if it'll zoom, it's not touching the tappet very well, or at all. So it's hung open just a little, because it goes up, but it doesn't go all the way down. So what we're gonna do is, because it takes 2 hands to free these up, I'm either gonna come in from the top and try to push it down with the screwdriver if I can reach it, or I'll push it way up and let it slam down like we did the 8N Ford tractor before we turboed it. And it's usually just some like flash rusting, or maybe there's a piece of sand holding it open. I don't know, but when we come back I'll tell you how I fixed it. So all I did was slam them down a few times with the screwdriver. See if I can demonstrate. Just go like that. And when you finally heard it snap harder was when I assumed they're closed all the way. And for the intake, I held it open, doused it with oil, and then did the same thing, and we should have a runner now. So I'm gonna just hook up fuel to it, and I think you guys will like what I use for a fuel tank, because it works pretty well. So in case anyone's wondering, yes, I took this off and blew the line out. And here's what I use for some of these small engines when I'm trying to get them running. I like to use these small little Coke cans. Now the mystery here is, where did the Diet Coke can come from? Because a whole 6-pack showed up, or I found, or I guess showed up. I don't know. I don't drink Cokes hardly either, at all. It's hard to talk and get this all lined up. I don't drink Diet Coke. Nobody I know drinks Diet Coke. But yet here we are with a whole 6-pack of Diet Coke. And I have no idea where it came from. But they got repurposed to... Diet Coke will actually kill the weeds. And it works for a good little fuel tank on this little stuff. So I think now, spin it enough, it'll blow through whatever issues it's having and should start running. Maybe. Let's try that. I bet I know what it is. No. Wasn't that. But it runs. Not smoking. Let's try it one more time. Got a lot of compression now. Take this, well, let's take this cover off and see why the throttle's not moving. So it helps when your spark plug's tight. I guess we'll mess with it some more. Let's see if it'll start with the foot crank. Oh wow. I didn't like that, but see if it'll start up again. Oh no, oh. I ran out of fuel. Or diet gas, I guess. Oh, you know, I think I know where that did come from. Anyway, kind of just a random thought. It's time to cheat. Or not, what happened? Turns out it was me having technical difficulties. The battery was dead. I think it floods out is what happens. Or we're running out of gas. But it'll stay here and run like this all day apparently. Might be running out of gas. Can't tell. Maybe start with the hand crank. Young kids. That's how you shut off a mower. Oh, right on compression. No. Looks like we only looked out once. So I'm going to say someone spent a lot of time making this nice because it's got a lot of compression. It's not worn out. And if it's not like a new old stock example, it's something something someone put a lot of money into. See if we can get it to start now, because I got it running pretty good, but it might make a liar out of me. It's been doing that. Nope. Not today. Sweet. That makes me happy. So pretty well the fun I like to have with them. I'll get this thing all polished up and cleaned up. I had a sticker on it from the auction, and I'll show you what it looks like maybe cleaned up. Depends if I remember. And I'll probably put it on eBay. I remember growing up, the old guy saying these old engines would run off anything. So let's see if it runs on the adhesive remover, because that's really what it is. I got balls of steel. I'm not afraid to blow up something that's 30 years old. No, I don't know how old it is. So just curious. I wonder if it really will run off that. I bet it will. It's flammable. These are pretty crude. Oh wow, that was too slow. Dang it. Trick is to make it not hammer. It ain't gonna run off. Never mind. It is gonna run off it. Okay then. I think that's probably gonna be it for this, because the fumes are horrible. If only you could smell them. It's not gasoline. You can tell by everything falling that this thing shakes a lot more. So yes, it's running off that. Yes, the old people were right, and no, that's not the best idea to run off whatever that's in here. Oh, here we go. So it's naphtha, xylene. Hell, it ain't that bad. Let's go again. See if it'll run. I don't think it'll run backwards. Not happy, but it'll run off it. Maybe it'll help clean the carb out. No, it wasn't a fluke. It's actually running off that. Cool. And in case you don't believe me, because that's kind of purplish, because it's racing fuel and that reformulated gas at Eco 88. So cool. So it will run off whatever you put in it, and it did clean up pretty well. So yep, I'm happy. I had some people asking or make mention about some of the plates and stuff here in a couple of previous videos, so I figured I'd kind of go over it because I never did, get back to them. So I guess we'll start over here and work our way around. This is I believe it's a Bosch injection pump cutaway, and it's an actual pump that they cut apart. And this came from a magneto / injection pump shop that had been in business since the mid 30s. And the cool thing about that auction was they auctioned off the guy's business, and my dad bought pretty well everything in that auction except for the machine shop tools and the building itself. And if I remember right, the guy that bought the building bought the machine shop tools, and there was pretty well only 2 buyers at that whole sale. Lots of people were really angry that they weren't buying anything, but the flip side of that is they should be paying more than $1 to $5. And this was probably 2004-ish. But anyway, so this was on a shelf on the very top. And I don't know, I want to say maybe 50s, 60s. And they had the full pumps there too. So that's where that came from. And then this stuff, those are tool bolt bins from O'Reilly's. The guy gave me a whole stack of them. He's really cool. These are all stuff I've gotten off cars I've had or bought and sold. That was off a Celica. That college kid drove it down to Dallas. When he graduated, his parents got him a car, so he just abandoned that and let the tow company have it. I don't remember what that one's off of. This one's off a guy's truck. He had dementia. He drove all the way from, I guess it's Regina. Drove all the way down there from here to a town about 30 miles from here because he had a farm in both Canada and Texas. And he left the truck down here, and we ended up buying the truck. This is off that Dodge that had the rusted out frame. And then some of these are, this is the first new car I had. This is a truck I owned, another truck. I don't remember what that one is. This is off of like a B model Mac. It came from an auction. I thought it was cool. It was in a box of someone's stuff. An estate auction. That I found in the green dually. I thought it was kind of cool. It's not an original. It's a reprint, but kind of neat nonetheless to look in it on occasion. Tri-power carb I was going to use on the 8N that I never, well, once I figured out for a tri-power setup, I didn't use it, obviously. We'll save this one for last. That one's got a story. International 466E. The guy babied it, and it carbon packed the pistons to where the rings are stuck, so I had to in-frame it. This is off that B model cat. That's a few videos back. I found out it dropped a valve, and it was a fairly fresh rebuild, sadly. They probably spent 10 grand on parts, not including labor. And this is a 6-liter Power Stroke piston. It's out of a bus. They call it a VT365 in the buses, and they're actually a pretty good engine in a bus. They'd run until they were worn out, and then you slap a reman. So, story with this was they had a guy that was real sloppy that did PMs, preventive maintenance. I guess he got a piece of dirt in the fuel system when he did a filter, hung open the injector, blew the tip off. The driver drove the bus with it smoking and knocking, I don't know how many miles, but this is the result. You see where the fuel sprayed, kind of like a cutting jet. The fuel and the heat went right through the rings and everything. But it gets better. So they threw a head on it, honed out the cylinder with like a ball hone or whatever to the next size, I think 10 over. And that bus ran a couple more years. And then 2 years later, 3 years later, I don't remember what it was. It might have even been 5 years. It's been a long time. Comes in for a hot no start. And the guy that had honed it, which he did a good job, it had some blow by, but you know, it ran just fine considering how hack they did it. He took it upon himself that his hone job wasn't any good. So he convinced them, and this is a school district, by the way, where I was working at. Convinced them it needed an engine. So $17,000 later, he put an engine in it, through the old injectors, the high pressure pump, turbo, all of that stuff was, off this engine. And lo and behold, he has the same hot start. Couldn't figure it out. And I had told him from the start, pull the valve covers, pressure check it for the high pressure oil for a leak. Because you either have a bad injector or something leaking. It's the only reason it would not start hot unless you hit it with ether, not this. So, long story short, one of the guys from International, he came by, told him the same thing, pull the valve covers off. And I think for probably, well, he said pull the valve covers off, pulled them off. One of the injectors he changed in the old engine before it started the hot nose start happened to be bad. We called up Napa because that's where they got it from. And he's like, oh yeah, they had a bad batch of injectors. Read me the number. Number was bad. They sent us a new injector. And long story short, they spent $17,000 over an injector that they got warranted anyway. That's school district logic for you. Pretty well what I've learned over the years, I did 15 years in different school districts, a couple of them, is all your people, I wouldn't say all, but there's a lot of people that end up there because it's impossible to get fired from a school district almost. There are people that couldn't hold a job anywhere else in the private sector, end up in a school district, and that's why you end up with stuff like this and your tax money wasted. And to add insult to injury to the poor guy after his big $17,000 screw up, anytime something came in the shop and he was scratching his head, I'd ask him if he pulled the valve covers, even if it wasn't a diesel. Tell him I don't want to hear it, pull the valve covers and then come back. And I'm pretty sure this day this guy hates me because he was a walking screw up. He's good at diagnosing wiring, but the rest of it, like this guy was pretty well walking screw up. Been to every dealer in town, had a couple of shops and failed. Worked in shops, oh they were mean, but you know, you don't know how to fix cars or anything. So that's the story on that. But yeah, it got pretty toasty. So hopefully that explains a lot of this stuff. Because I know people have asked and I don't know, I never just had a chance to do it. And this is Whistling Diesel squatted truck. Thought it was cool, it says do not open, so I opened it. In case anyone didn't buy one, I'll open it for you. That's what's in it. It smells like burned gear lube. Piece of foam. And I don't know what other parts these are. I think that's a rod. No. I don't know. People hate the guy for destroying stuff, but I can't hate him because he's just like me. If I had the space, I'd be destroying stuff like him more so than I do, just because something about it relieves stress and stuff, and it's a lot of fun seeing what something will take. So I don't hate the guy. I think I've heard people that have met him personally that he's pretty cool, so I think I'd get along with the guy. I'm usually on my best behavior on the videos. I could be just as wild as him, if not worse. So I hope that kind of explains some of this stuff. Usually if it doesn't have a good story with it, I don't keep it, but I can tell you the story pretty well with all of this stuff. So I hope you guys enjoy the video, and I got a couple more ideas for videos in between being busy. So we'll catch you on the next video. Thanks for watching and commenting, guys.